Having set up your first row on the wrong side, we're now going to work the first right side row and start working our increases at the raglan points. So the very first row, you're going to start with a knit front and back. But we actually have to move this stitch marker and place it between the two stitches. That now gives us our additional purl stitch for the cable panel, and this will now be the increase point in future for the raglan seam on the front. So I'm going to purl one. We also now go straight into the little cable pattern. Every right side row, the two knit stitches are crossed over each other to create a little cable. So the way I do this, I find easiest, is to work it without a cable needle. I'm going to slip both stitches to the right needle, then I'm going to reach across with my left needle and put it in the front of the furthest stitch, and then if you pinch both stitches just below the needle and pull the right needle out, you're then going to come round behind and pick up the second stitch, which is hanging free. Now as I place this stitch back on my left needle, I'm going to bring my left needle in front of the right needle just to hold it there, because I need to work a knit through the back loop stitch here. So the stitch is already on my right needle. If I just put my left needle in front, it's now correctly positioned for me to knit through the back loop and then knit the next one through the back loop. You're going to be making these little cable crosses every other row 4 times in the row, so it is much quicker if you can learn to do it without using a cable needle. So I'm going to work the 2 purl stitches, slip the stitch marker and try not to drop it along the way, and now I'm going to work my first make one increase. So this time I'm going to be doing what's called, I'm just checking my pattern to make sure I'm doing the same thing, what's called a make one right. So I'm going to lift the thread over the left needle, so as if yours coming from back to front, and then I'm going to knit through the front of the loop to twist it. So that's made a stitch which is leaning to the right. I'm going to knit to the next stitch marker, and then before the next stitch marker, so this is the top of the sleeve, before the next stitch marker I'm going to do a make one left. This time it goes onto the needle from front to back, and then I knit through the back of the loop to do my make one, slip the stitch marker, purl 2, and again we've got to do our little cable. So slip the 2 stitches purlwise, so as if you were just passing them from left to right needle. Put your left needle back in front of the first stitch you slipped. If you pinch just underneath the needles, so you can pull the needle out, and then with the left needle I'm going to reach around so I can pick up the free stitch at the back, put my left needle in front of my right needle so I can do a knit one through the back loop, knit one through the back loop, purl 2, and here we are again at the next raglan point. So this time, so you want to keep the stitch markers next to the panel and do the increases between the purl and the knit stitch, but keeping the stitch marker next to the panel. So this time I slip the stitch marker and I'm going to do a make one right, so that is coming from behind, lift up the loop. Sometimes it can help if you just push the loop around with your finger so you can get into it to knit your twisted stitch. So that's my make one right. I now knit across to the next stitch marker, so this is across the back neck. Just bring out a bit more yarn. So again, so I've knitted up to my stitch marker. I want to do my make one before the panel, and this time it's the left leaning make one, so the left needle goes from front to back and I knit through the back of the loop to twist the stitch shut, slip the marker, purl 2, make my little cable cross. So again, it's slip 2 stitches to the right needle, reach across with the left needle, pinch behind as you take the right needle out, pick up the loose stitch with your point of your right needle, bring the left needle back in through the front, knit 1 through the back loop, knit 1 through the back loop, purl 2, slip the stitch marker, take the yarn back and do your make one right this time, because they are leaning in opposite directions. So I've knit through the front of the twisted stitch, knit 2. At this end we're going to do a make one left, so we come in from front to back and knit through the back of the loop, move the stitch marker, purl 2, make a little cable, so again through the front, hold on to the stitches, pick up the loop, knit 1 through the back loop, knit 1 through the back loop, purl 1, and now if we remove this stitch marker, and we've got to do our knit back and front, so we're going to knit into the front, replace the stitch marker and knit into the back to make the extra stitch on that row. So that sets up how to work the increases and the little cables for the top of the yoke. You would now carry on following your worksheet. So we've worked row 1 of the worksheet here, and then you would work row 2, which in this case is just working back as the stitches present themselves, and then we would start row 3 And where you've got the one in the column, that's telling you you're increasing one stitch. So that's the raglan point of the front, that's one side of the raglan of the sleeve, the other side, the two back ones, the other two sleeves and the second front. That should get you started with knitting the yoke of the garment.